right, so having to graph these things every single time is kind of annoying, right? If I wanted the solution and you had to sit and graph it every single time, yeah. So for probably, we're talking that today and at least all of next week, we're going to be talking about different ways to solve this. Okay, there's quite a few different ways. Today we're going to talk about doing it by just taking square roots, and then we're getting back into factoring. I know that's your favorite. And then we're going to talk about something called the completing the square. And then we've got something called the quadratic formula. So, super good times. All right, we know, right, we've talked about the fact that the solutions are what? Where? Yes, so that's what I was looking for on that quiz. Define solutions, where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay? Yeah. All right, so taking square root of your number. Grab your calculator. All right, do we all know where the square root button is on here? Okay, it's above that x squared button, right? So we've got to hit second square root, and if we're going to take the square root of 81, we get 9. All right, so we need to talk about, if I'm just doing that, that's fine. But what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up with equations that look like this. X squared equals 9. Okay, now to solve for x squared, what we do is, what's the opposite of squaring a number? Taking the square root. But if we look at this, this is asking what squared gives us 9? 3. Okay, so x can be 3, because 3 squared gives us 9. Right, this is part of your notes. Okay, but there's also something else squared that gives us 9. Yeah. Okay, if I take -3 and I square it, what do I get? 9. So what else works for x? -3. So there's going to be two answers for these. It's going to be x equals 3 or x equals -3. Okay, because both of those end up working, because this is asking what squared equals 9. Does 3 squared equal 9? Does -3 squared equal 9? Yes. Okay, so you're going to end up getting two answers that way. All right, so we just talked about all this stuff. Good. All right, let's look at this guy. Square root of -25. Plug it into your calculator. Error. Why? Because it's a negative. Can I take the square root of a negative number? No. So this I would write no solution. This symbol right here, plus or minus the square root of 81. That's what this means, plus or minus. Okay, it does matter. It means both. Okay, so this means that if I take the square root of 81, I'm going to get the positive of the square root of 81, which is 9, and I'm going to get the negative of the square root of 89, which is -9. Okay, so that's what that plus and minus means. Why aren't you writing this down? Only if it's underneath there. Okay, if it's on the outside, it goes along with it. Okay, so this means to take the negative of the square root of 64. So what's the square root of 64? Well, no, just what's the square root of 64? 8, and then take the negative of it. So we would have negative 8. Okay? And then if there's nothing in front of it, it's just going to be positive. So the square root of 21, or square root of 121 is 11. So we would just get the regular 11. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. No, because the negative is right there, is on the outside, so it's got to come down with it. So this is saying take the negative of the square root of 64. So when we took the square root of 64, we got 8. But then since that minus is out there, we got to make it negative. Does that make sense? All right. All right. So good stuff. Which number up here is not a perfect square? Okay. Do we remember what perfect squares are? It's when we take the square root, we get a whole number, right? Not a decimal? Yeah, it's 8. Okay, because the square root of 81 is 9. Square root of 121 is, square root of 400 is 20. Okay, so it's 8. All right, now we get into the good stuff. Okay, when there is no middle term, okay, this only works when there isn't a middle term. And what do I mean by middle term? Yeah, there's no b, or like when b is 0, this is what it works. Okay? What we want to do in that case is we want to get our variable squared. In this case, it's x squared. We want to get it by itself. Okay? So we want to get everything away from it. So we're back to solving equations from semester 1. So b squared minus 4 equals 0. What are they doing? They are subtracting 4, so we have to add 4. So we're going to plus 4 on both sides of my equal sign. That goes away. What do I have left over here? X squared equals 4. Now what do I have to do? I have to take the square root of 4. How many answers am I going to get? 2. So my answer is going to be x equals 2, x equals negative 2. Good. Innocent, how many answers am I going to get? Dylan, how many answers am I going to get? All right. Just making sure we're all listening. All right, first step here. So b squared equals 11. Okay, we're not going to write these in radical notation right now. We are going to round to nearest hundredth, yes. Okay, so b equals, well, yep, I think you're right, but I'm going to take a look at it. So we're going square root, whoops, that's not square root. Square root of 11 equals. All right, so let's talk about how to round these things. Some of us are still really struggling with rounding. Okay, hundredth means how many places after the decimal? 2. So we go 2 places after the decimal, 3.3, and we got to look after that next number, and it's a 6. So I've got to make that one a 2. So 3.32 and b equals negative 3.32. How many answers must you have? 2. The only time you won't have 2 answers is when your answer is, anybody know? Anybody? 0. Because is there a negative 0? No. Okay. All right. So d squared equals 81. Okay. Do I have to move anything? No. I get d equals 9 and d equals negative 9. Okay, so far so good. Do this one. Do this one. Don't yell out the answer. No. No. Mm-hmm. 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 All right, so we get m squared equals who? 49, because we got to move that guy over, so he becomes positive. Okay, so we get m equals 7 and m equals negative 7. Which one has the correct notation? C. Means both positive and negative 7. Christian had a really good question. Can you write this on your worksheet? No. I want this. Comprende? Comprende? All right, couple more. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Okay, let's say that this is 13. Okay, so what would I do? What do I have to do here? Same thing. I'm going to add my 36 to the other side. X squared equals, yeah, we just do what's over there, 13 plus 36. Okay, so now x equals 7 and x equals negative 7. Okay, next one. P squared equals 15. P equals 3.87. Is that what you guys got? Everybody else got that? Did she round it right? All right, and P equals negative 3.87. Okay, so let's look at this guy. R squared equals negative 25. No solution. Why? Because you can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay, and what does that mean? It means that if we were going to plug this into our calculator, our graph would look like this. Does it cross the x-axis? No. That's why it's no solution. Okay? If I were to plug this into my calculator, it would look like that. And it would cross at 3.87 on this side and negative 3.87 on this side. Oh, yeah. All right. So, meanwhile, all right, so sometimes we might have more than one step. First step, plus 100. So 4t squared equals 100. Then we would have to divide by 4. So t squared equals 25. Therefore, t equals 5 and t equals negative 5. Good. Yeah, this should not be very hard. Okay? Okay, we're not throwing anything super new at you or anything like that. Okay, this is all stuff, for the most part, that we've seen before, right?